Hey, sorry, Dan. We got cut off earlier. So when we were talking about explaining your evidence, we were talking about how we can explain or elaborate our answer. So we specifically looked at the passage on the last day. So like the very back page of your homework, there's the question, what is the text structure of the first paragraph? Is it a cause and effect or descriptive text structure? And how do you know? So in your binder, there should be a chart, which now that I think about it, you may not have. I'll have to get you one of those. So let me see if I can look one up real quick. I'm going to pause this for just a second. Okay, so if you have one, it should look like so. If not, I need to make sure that I make some copies of those to put in your binder. So when it's talking about the text structure, I was asking about description and or cause and effect. So if we look at description, it says that the author will provide several details of something to give the reader a mental picture. Some clues are like you might see a lot of adjectives, characteristics, or examples about something. And then the other one would be cause and effect, where the author describes an event or several events, like the cause, and then the events that follow the effect. We've talked about cause and effect several times. Remember, it's something that happens because of something else, okay? So some clue words we might see are cause, because, effect, as a result of, due to, or reason, okay? So if we go back to our passage here, and we look at paragraph 1, because that's what it's asking about, we can look here and it says, poetry is important to American culture and literature. In 1996, the Academy of American Poets created National Poetry Month. It was made to be celebrated in April after Black History Month and Women's History Month. So after we've read this, we can look back at those examples and I can see that it doesn't have any of these clue words like cause, because, effect, as a result of, due to, reason. It doesn't have something that happens because of something else. So I know that it's not a cause and effect. But if I look at a description, the author does provide a lot of details about poetry and tells us a lot of characteristics or examples. So it should be a description text structure. So if I look back at my question, I can answer my question by using my race strategy. So it says, what is the text structure of the first paragraph? Is it a cause and effect or a descriptive text structure, and how do you know? So if I look at my sentence starters, one of the sentence starters that I talked about yesterday was the reader can infer. Jalen actually chose that, and we talked about how that has to be something that is not specifically stated in the text. So if we talk about that first paragraph, the reader is having to infer that it's descriptive structure. It doesn't say, hey, guys, I'm a descriptive text structure. We have to figure that out. Okay, so we're going to use our sentence starter. The reader can infer. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to restate our question without those question words. So the reader can infer that the text structure of the first paragraph is, and then I'm going to answer it, descriptive, period. So I've restated my question. I've answered in complete sentences. Now I need to cite evidence. Well, we talked about how this question doesn't necessarily have specific details that would help to support my answer, since it's more of an inference about the whole paragraph. So one of the questions that it asks is how I know. Okay, and this is more of an E for our race, like the explain and elaborate. So I can use my explain and elaborate if I look here, And I could say that it shows this, or it proves this, or it makes me think this explains whatever, or it means this. But my question specifically asked, how do I know? So instead of using one of these sentence starters, I'm going to use my own sentence starter. And I am just going to say, I know this because. And it does the same thing. It explains or elaborates. So I know this because, well, if we look back at some of our descriptive words, clue words, or definition, it tells us that it gives like several details, or it might have a lot of characteristics and examples. So if I look at my passage, that's exactly what paragraph 1 does. It gives me a lot of information and details about poetry and National Poetry Month. So in my answer, I'm going to put that I know this because the first paragraph gives a lot of details and examples about poetry and National Poetry Month. So now I've explained and elaborated on my answer. And now I need to cite, like, where did I get all this information? Well, I've already told them that I've gotten it in the first paragraph, but now I have to cite the author. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put in parentheses the author, which is 24/7 teacher. And then I'm going to put a period after on the outside of the parentheses. So make sure you open up your homework and answer question 4. Okay. And so you won't have to do that next week, that number 4. But this is how I want you to be answering your questions anytime you might need to explain your text evidence or elaborate more. So your goal today is to read your assigned reading. I believe Fire Girl needs to read chapters 3 and 4. And when you're done reading, I want you to respond by using Post-it notes and explain how your evidence from yesterday that you found helps to support your character traits. So you're supposed to be finding specific evidence to help support whatever character traits they had. So if you thought that they were intelligent, well, what text evidence tells me that they're intelligent, and how does that text evidence explain that? So I gave an example of rules where it talked about David being stubborn, and we looked at a specific piece of evidence where he was sitting on the porch and he was yelling, "No, 5 o'clock," because he didn't want a maybe 5 o'clock or around 5 o'clock. He wanted a definite answer. And so when I'm explaining how that evidence supports the character trait that he's stubborn, I can talk about how stubborn people are not willing to compromise. It's usually like their way or the highway. And so him yelling that it needs to be exactly 5 o'clock shows that he is not willing to compromise, and he wants it his way. Okay? So I want you to be thinking about that with your character traits for any of your characters that you've been reading about the last few days, and go ahead on those Post-it notes, explain any evidence that you have found. Okay? And then tonight for homework, you need to read your passage, and then chart your fluency 3 times. Okay? So if you have any questions, go ahead and feel free to email me. I'd be happy to help. Have a good day.